So I was thinking. Hold on, I'm just getting my iPad set up here. I was thinking about kind of an interesting scenario yesterday or last night when I was sort of sitting and doing some contemplation, as I often do. And this example that I'm going to give you is not about me or anybody that I know, although it probably does exist. I'm sure. But I want you to envision this for a minute. Let's assume there's like a new college graduate. He graduates with a degree in like business or finance or something like that. And let's assume he's a male, and he's a really good person, right? He's really compassionate, young guy, very ambitious, but good, pure heart. And now he has this degree. He's fresh out of university, and he has this degree, and he's eager to get a job. So he gets a position at some sort of consulting firm or a financial institution or something like that. And, he doesn't really see the kind of corruption that's probably present in that company, which there usually is in those sorts of companies that you aren't really going to know about or see, or you're not going to be exposed to when you're on this kind of entry level sort of just employee realm, right? You don't see this stuff until you actually get in there. But he likes his job and he's good at it, and everybody at work respects him, and he's always getting praise and does well in his performance reviews and everything. But he kind of sees that, he's eager to move up, right? He's eager for growth, as we usually are. And there's nothing wrong with that. And he sees that other people around him are sort of moving up, and their salaries are increasing and they're making more money. And he finds that some of his friends make a lot more money than he does, right? And he sees people living a certain life on social media and around him. And, let's say he lives somewhere very competitive like New York City, and, it's all about kind of chasing more and kind of climbing that ladder as much as you possibly can, even if you don't really want to. Let's assume that maybe he's in this position and he's very comfortable and he enjoys it and it's a good job and he makes a decent salary. But just due to the fact that he has this sort of societal narrative in him that he has to always be doing more and always doing better, that he kind of works his way up the ranks a little bit, and he keeps going for those promotions and he gets them, and he keeps doing more and more work. He's more stressed. But then, like, fast forward 10 years later, now he has the wife and the kids and the mortgage and that whole thing. And now he's in some sort of executive position. He's like in his 30s, and he's like a high level executive at this financial firm. And he doesn't really enjoy it. He kind of misses like just the simple life of him just working as like a financial analyst or whatever. He misses just the simple day-to-day work. He liked his coworkers. He, was able to just work his normal hours and get paid and go home. And now he's kind of in this executive position, and it's a lot of responsibility, and it's a lot of stress, and it's very long hours. And now he has all the huge house and all of these bills and the Mercedes and the kids. So although he isn't really happy with where he's at, he has no choice, right? He's kind of like stuck here because his lifestyle he's adapted to the life that he's living and the money that he's making and the bills that he has to pay. He has no choice now. He's kind of trapped, right? And now on top of all that, he kind of hates the position. He's still a good person, has a good heart, still always tries to help people. But now in the position that he's in this executive level, they're asking him, like his superiors are asking him to make very unethical decisions. He has to do very unethical things. Maybe he has to like fire employees that shouldn't be fired just because they want to move somebody else in those positions, some friends of the CEO or something like that. Or he just has to do things that go against his moral compass. And he knows that they do. And he has a high moral compass. He has one, and he follows it. He's always followed it. He was a good kid, right? And now what is he to do in that situation? They're asking him to make these unethical decisions and to do these things that go against his values. But if he doesn't do them, he thinks Maybe they threatened him and said that, we'll have to let you go if you don't do this, or maybe they insinuated it, or maybe he just knows that that's what's going to happen. So now he's put into this position where he has to do things that he doesn't really want to do, that he doesn't feel comfortable doing, simply because he, got to this point that he didn't even really want to be in, because he climbed this ladder that he didn't even necessarily want to climb, but it was just so ingrained in him from the society around him that you have to do this, right? And again, this is not based off any real scenario or situation, although I'm almost positive this does exist, and it probably happens on a pretty regular basis, but this is just some sort of hypothetical scenario I came up with in my mind. So he did the unethical things, and he this is what he did, and this is what most of us do. Well, like, he'll justify it, right? He'll say, "Oh, well, it's just business. It's just what has to be done. It's not my company. I just work here and I get paid." And this is what most people do who are put in these sorts of positions. They either won't think about it at all, they'll just do it like sheep, or they'll come up with some sort of justification as to why it's okay. And this is kind of why the world is at the state that it is with, in politics and all the wars and everything, because this is what people do. They just do what they're told. They don't really think too much about anything. They act very unconsciously. They don't make ethical, logical decisions based on their own values. And this is sort of how the world corrupts you, because, like I said, he has to keep up with his lifestyle and his salary and his kids, and now he has no choice. And this is an extreme example, but this is essentially how the world around us, like, it kind of corrupts us in a way. He identifies so much with his title and his salary and his position and his group of friends and his coworkers and his home and his car. There's like no other choice. And now he's just turned into this sort of evil executive, and now his whole career is just making these sorts of unethical decisions. This is a really good example of how we, how can I put this? How our ego kind of forms and adapts to the environment around us and the narratives that we believe and what we're told. This is why if you grew up with people around you who were very, if you grew up in, like, your parents were maybe criminals, or grew up around very prejudiced, racist people, like, you'll just grow up thinking that that's okay. And that's your baseline. That's just how you see the world. You're seeing the world through these sort of like rose tinted glasses, and you don't even realize it. And this is sort of what spiritual awakenings, you kind of like take off the rose tinted glasses and you see reality for what it really is. And then, just to be clear, I'm not saying you shouldn't progress in your career and, take those promotions or whatever it may be. I really advocate for self-growth, not even in the spiritual sense, but I mean, I guess it's all in the spiritual sense, but even in your material life and your regular day-to-day, you should always be striving for something better, but for the right reasons, for the right reasons. Like, really thinking deeply about why you want certain things, or why you want to do certain things, or why you want to make certain decisions, not just because you feel obligated to, or because you want some sort of recognition or fame or respect from other people, or because you can't bear the fact that maybe other people are slightly ahead of you. And this is very common. I mean, I'm 33 now, and especially during this age range, it's like we see people, people are making certain decisions in life, and it's almost like a stab at our ego if we're not at the same level they are. But you really have to see through this illusion. It's really important to see through this illusion. None of my content, I'm not here telling you what decisions you should make in life. None of my content really has anything to do with what you're actually doing in your life, because all of our experiences, all of our decisions are different. We all want different things. We have different goals. So just to be very clear about that, it's never about, I'm not here to give advice, like life advice on what you should do. And I get people emailing me all the time asking me, oh, well, writing these long stories about what should I do. And sometimes I don't even respond, not because I don't want to talk to you, but it's just I'm not in a position to be giving advice. I'm just trying to make you, I guess, see things for what they really are, and to get you to think in a slightly different way, and maybe to contemplate a little bit deeper. It's never about the actual situation. All situations are more or less the same. We're all going through the same worldly problems and the same type of thing. And it's not really always easy to understand your intentions behind everything that you do, everything that you want, every desire you have, because sometimes we're operating so unconsciously. But this is where it's really important to get in touch with your intuition, because I can't, it's hard to really put into words, but there's like a very night and day difference between something that the ego wants and something that like we feel in our heart, like very called towards, right? But you get better at discerning that the more that you awaken and the more that you kind of immerse yourself on into this path and sort of the spiritual life, and just a more clear way of thinking, I suppose you can say. You see, truly, I mean, I say this a lot. I really firmly believe that the goal is not to climb the ladder and always want more, and to always be better and do better. And I mean, it is in a sense to want to be better, but not in this sort of superficial, materialistic kind of way. It's really about less, you know? I'm finding now that like true fulfillment is found in a very lessened, simplistic way of living. And this really comes down to your mind more than anything. So like you can still be an executive or something, but still be living a somewhat simple lifestyle. It might be a little difficult, but I'm sure it can be done, and I'm sure it is done. I mean, I'm sure people do it. I would say that that's really the main objective with a lot of this work. It's to get to a point where you find yourself just desiring less than more. Because it's so ingrained in us that it's always about more. It's always about that next thing, right? It's never about what we already did or what we already have. It's never about acknowledging previous achievements or possessions or experiences, but it's just like, it's this constant push in the world, especially in this very, in America and in the West. It's just like it makes you almost feel like you're not worth anything if, you're not measuring up to everybody around you. And you have to be careful though, because that the other way can also be a trap. You can also, this isn't meant to say that you shouldn't do anything ever. That's not good either. Sometimes comparing yourself to the people around you is a good thing. It has motivated me a lot, but compare yourself to the right people, Value things like intelligence and knowledge and people who are achieving, noble things from a good place. Like writing a book, for example, is, looking up to an author or a scientist or somebody who's achieving those types of things, not just like one of the most shallow things you can look up to is somebody who's simply just somebody who lives a life of boasting how much money and wealth they have. Like it's so superficial and shallow. And I see so many young people, they just look up to that alone, and that's it. That's all that they care about, is just the status and the fame and the money. And it's really such a dead end, It's funny, Nisargadatta actually has a quote. It's something like, I wish I could remember it exactly. I'll try to find it, but it's something like, you don't need any more experiences. You have to just focus on being, It's not always about more and more experiences. Although I think opening yourself up to the right experiences can be quite good for our growth, but you don't need to, it's not always about just one experience. I have to do this. I have to go here. I have to do that. Sometimes it's about just simply being, It's funny because I was looking at some old pictures of a trip I took to Washington State like 6 or 8 months ago, and I was just looking at the pictures, and it made me realize like how much I enjoyed that trip, and how good of a time I had. And it was a solo trip just by myself, and just looking at these pictures, it brought back so many memories, and like that's how I knew like I was meant to go there. And you'll feel very called to certain things in life. And after you do it, you'll look back and you'll realize that you were called to do it for whatever reason. It might be growth that you don't even see, and not just with trips, but with anything, with people you meet and things that you do. And cherish the things that you've already done, and the things that you probably overlook and you don't even really appreciate, Maybe certain painful experiences you've been through. Like sit down and really think about that. What have you been through that maybe you don't even really think about or appreciate, but you realize that was probably an extremely beneficial and important thing for you to go through. A breakup maybe. Could have been anything. It could have been something that really taught you something, that really accelerated your own growth. Maybe you needed to go through that breakup to recognize the people that you shouldn't be with. Maybe you had to, maybe being broke motivated you to find a creative way to make more money. Maybe it led you to finding a job that, you know what I mean? There's so many things that we go to. We don't sit and really appreciate the things that we've been through, the things that we already have. It's always about more. It's always about the next thing or getting to that next level in life. We do this so much that we completely neglect living. We completely neglect just the being. And this is how the world kind of enslaves you in a sense, because it's always pulling you away from being. It's always pulling you towards something else, more money, more this, more that, more entertainment, more scrolling. It's hard living in this world. But I guess the point is to just recognize it. Recognize in what ways, what distracts you from just pure consciousness, which just recognizing your own consciousness, what distracts you from just pure being and awareness. So that's my chat for today. I hope this was helpful and beneficial. Remember that all you have is right now. All you have is your own consciousness. Everything else outside of that is just an illusion. Have a great rest of your day.